Okay, excellent. So, hello out there in video land. Today we're going to begin the Ulysses section that some refer to as the Sirens section, which has a reputation of being quite musical, which hopefully, at least at points, we will demonstrate the musicality of it, but we make no guarantees on that part. So, welcome, and here we go. Get the chat list. Okay. Bronze by gold, heard the hoof iron steely ringing. Rim, rim. Chips, picking chips off rocky thumbnail chips. Hoarded and gold flushed more. And husky fife note blue. Blue. Blue bloom is on the gold pinnacle hair. A jumping rose on satiny breast of satin rose of Castile. Trilling, trilling, ay Dolores. Peep, who's in the peep of gold? Tink cried to bronze in pity. A call, pure, long, and throbbing, long indying call. Decoy, soft word, but look, the bright stars fade. Oh, Rose! Notes, chirruping answer, Castile. The morn is breaking. Jingle, jingle, jaunt a jingling. Next, please.
What's up?
Bill's up.
Oh,
He's
I'm sorry. I was trying to send you guys that link. Let me I'm
okay. I can read a little bit more while you get organized if you want.
um
We are at
I'm there. I've got it.
okay. Coin rang, clock,
Yeah.
clack.
Coin rang, clock clacked, a vowel. Sonnet. I could, rebound of garter, not leave thee, smack, la cloche, thy smack, a vowel, warm. Sweetheart, goodbye. Jingle, blue, bloomed, crashing chords. When love absorbs, war, war, the tympanum, a sail, a veil, a wave upon the waves. Lost, throstle fluted, all is lost now. Horn, haw horn, when first he saw, alas, full tup, full throb, warbling, allure, alluring. Martha, come, clap, clap, clip, clap, clappy, clap. Good God, he never heard in all. Deaf, bald Pat brought Pat, knife, took up. A moonlit nightfall, far, far. I feel so sad. P.S. So lonely blooming. Listen, the spiked and winding cold sea horn. Have you the? Each and for other splash and silent roar. Pearls when she lists rhapsodies. Hiss. You don't? Did not. No, no. Believe. Lid, lid. With a cock, with a caw, clack, deep sounding. Do, Ben, do. Wait while you wait. Wait while you he. But wait. Low and dark Middle Earth, embedded ore. Domine, domine, all gone, all fallen. Tiny, her tremulous fern foils of maidenhair. Amen. He gnashed in fury. Fro, to, fro, a baton, cool, protruding. Bronze Lydia, by Mina Gold, by bronze, by gold, an ocean green of shadow. Bloom, old bloom. One wrapped, one tapped with a craw, with a cock. Pray for him. Pray, good people. His gouty fingers knackering. Big Benaben, big Ben. Last rose Castile of summer left bloom. I feel so sad, alone. Little wind piped wee. True men, lid, cur, cow, dee, and all. Aye, aye, like you men will lift your chink with chunk. Where bronze from an ear, where gold from afar, where hoofs. Then, not till then, my epitaph be but done. Begin. Next.
Can you skip me this round to go around to the next person, please? So it's done.
Okay, so Donnie, you ready?
Okay. I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Bronze by gold, Miss Douce's head by Miss Kennedy's head. Over the cross blind of the Ormond bar, heard the vice-regal hoofs go by, ringing steel. Is that her? Asked Miss Kennedy. Miss Douce said, yes, sitting with his ex, Pearl Grey and Old Daniil. Exquisite contrast, Miss Kennedy said. When all agog, Miss Douce said eagerly, look at the fellow in the tall silk. Who? Where? Gold asked more eagerly. In the second carriage, Miss Douce's wet lips said, laughing in the sun, he's looking, mind till I see. She darted, bronze, to the backmost corner, flattening her face against the pane in a halo of hurried breath. Her wet lips tittered. He's killed looking back. She laughed. Oh, wept, aren't men frightful idiots? With sadness. Miss Kennedy sauntered sadly from bright light, finding a loose hair behind an ear. Sauntering sadly, gold no more. She twisted, twined a hair. Sadly, she twined in sauntering gold hair behind a curving ear. It's them has the fine time, sadly then, she said. A man. Blue Hoo went by Moulang's pipes, bearing in his breast the sweets of sin. My wine's antiques in memory, bearing sweet, sinful words by Carol's dusky, battered plate for Raoul. The boots to them in the bar, them barmaids came. To them, unheeding him, he banged on the counter his tray of shattering china. And there's your teas, he said. Next thing.
Miss Kennedy, with manners transpose the tea tray down to an upturned lithia crate, safe from eyes, low. Who is it? Loud Boots unmannerly asked. Find out, Miss Douce retorted, leaving her spying point. Your beau, is it? A haughty Bronze replied. I'll complain to Mrs. de Massey on you if I hear any more of your impertinent insolence. Impertinent insolence. Boots now sniffled rudely as he retreated, as she threatened, as he had come. Bloom. On her flower, frowning, Miss Douce said, most aggravating that young brat is. If he doesn't conduct himself, I'll wring his ear for him a yard long. Ladylike in exquisite contrast. Take no notice, Miss Kennedy rejoined. She poured in a teacup tea, then back in a teapot tea. They cowered under their grief of counter, waiting on footstools, crates upturned, waiting for their teas to draw. They pawed their blouses, both of black satin, 2 and 9 a yard, waiting for their teas to draw, and 2 and 7. Yes, bronze from an ear, by gold from afar, heard steel from an ear, hoofs ringing from afar, and heard steel hoofs, ring hoof, ring steel. Am I awfully sunburned? Miss Bronze unbloused her neck. No, said Miss Kennedy. It gets brown after. Did you try the borax with the cherry laurel water? Miss Douce half stood to see her skin askance in a bar mirror, gilded, lettered, where lock and claret glasses shimmered, and in their midst a shell. I'll leave it to my hand, she said. Try it with the glycerin, Miss Kennedy advised. Bidding her neck and hands adieu, Miss Douce. Next.
Those things only bring out a rash, replied, reseated. I asked that old fogey in Boyd's for something for my skin. Miss Kennedy, pouring now full-drawn tea, grimaced and prayed, oh, don't remind me of him for mercy's sake. But wait till I tell you, Miss Douce entreated. Sweet tea, Miss Kennedy, having poured with milk, plugged both 2 ears with little fingers. No, don't, she cried. I won't listen, she cried. But Bloom, Miss Douce grunted in snuffy, foggy tone. For your what, says he? Miss Kennedy unplugged her ears to hear, to speak, but prayed again. Don't let me think of him or I'll expire. That hideous old wretch, that night in the Entian concert rooms. She sipped distastefully her brew, hot tea, a sip, sip, sweet tea. Here he was, Miss Douce said, cocking her bronze head 3/4, ruffling her nose wings. Huffa, huffa. Shrill shriek of laughter sprang from Miss Kennedy's throat. Miss Douce huffed and snorted down her nostrils that quivered imperthrum like a shout in quest. Oh, shrieking Miss Kennedy cried, will you ever forget his google eye? Miss Douce chimed in deep bronze laughter, shouting, and your other eye. Blow whose dark ye read Aaron Fingarter's name. Why do I always think Fig Arthur? Gathering figs, I think, and prosper, Lord's Huguenot name. By Bassy blessed virgin's bloom dark eyes went by, blue robed, white under, come to me. God they believe she is, or goddess. Those today I could not see. That fellow spoke, a student. After with Daedalus' son, he might be Mulligan. All comely virgins. That brings those rakes of fellas in, or white. By went his eyes. The sweets of sin, sweet are the sweets of sin. In a giggling pearl, young gold blossoms, voices blended. Douce with a Kennedy or other eye. They threw young heads back, bronze, giggle, gold, or let freely their laughter, screaming, your other, signals to each other, high piercing notes. Ah, panting, sighing, sighing, ah, for done their mirth died down. Miss Kennedy lipped her cup again, raised, drank a sip, and giggled. Miss Douce, bending down over the tea tray, ruffled again her nose, and rolled fattened eyes. And Kennedy giggles, stooping her fair pinnacles of hair, stooping her tortoise nape comb showed spluttered out of her mouth her tea, choking in tea, and laughter, coughing, choking, crying. Oh, greasy eye, imagine being married to a man like that, she cried, with his bitter bread. Next, please.
It's my turn, and I'm sure willing to pick it up, but we did talk last time of taking it in smaller chunks. And so, is this a small enough chunk, or do you want me to carry on?
I think we want to carry on actually until we get to the next page, where kind of the two girls wrap up a little bit, and we have In Came Lenehan.
I'm just looking to see where that is. In came Monahan.
That's on the next page, in the middle of the page.
Got
so
it.
It's like there's Dolores, Queen of the Eastern Seas. Was Miss
Yes, I see that.
Bridwell.
Okay, fair enough.
And
Okay.
then we'll try that out, and then we'll decide whether we read too much.
Sure. Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Oh, greasy eyes! Imagine being married to like that. She cried. A man like that. She cried, with his bit of beard. Deuce gave full vent to a splendid yell, a full woman. Delight, joy, indignation. Married to the greasy nose, she yelled. Shrill, with deep laughter, after gold after bronze, they urged each to peal after peal, ringing in changes, bronze, gold, bronze, shrill, deep, to laughter after laughter. And then laughed more. Greasy eye nose, exhausted, breathless, their shaken heads they laid braided and pinnacled by glossy combs against the counter ledge, all flushed, oh, panting, sweating, oh, all breathless. Married to Bloom, to Grease a Bloom. Oh, saints above, Miss Douce said, sighed above her jumping rose. I wished I hadn't laughed so much. I feel all wet. Oh, Miss Douce, Miss Kennedy protested. You horrid thing! And flushed yet more, you horrid, more goldenly. By Cantwell's offices roved Greasabloom, by Seppi's virgins, bright of their oils. Nanetti's father hawked those things about, wheedling at doors as I. Religion pays. Must see 'em for that par. Eat first. I want. Not yet. At 4, she said. Time ever passing. Clock hands turning. On. Where eat? The Clarence? Dolphin? On. For Raoul. Eat. If I net 5 guineas with those ads. The violet silk petticoats. Not yet. The sweets of sin. Flushed less, still less, goldenly paled. Into their bar strolled Mr. Dedalus. Chips, picking chips off one of his rocky thumbnails. Chips he strolled. Well, welcome back, Miss Douce. He held her hand. Enjoyed her holidays? Tip-top. He hoped she'd had nice weather in Rostravar. Gorgeous, she said. Look at the holy show of him lying out on the strand all day. Bronze whiteness. That was exceedingly naughty of you, Mr. Dedalus told her and pressed her hand indulgently. Tempting poor simple males. Miss Douce sat and deuced her arm away. Oh, go away, she said. You're very simple, I don't think. He was. Well, now I am, he mused. I looked so simple in the cradle, they christened me Simple Simon. You must have been a doty, Miss Douce made answer. And what did the doctor order today? Well, now, he mused. Whatever you say yourself, I think I'll trouble you for some fresh water and a half glass of whiskey. Katrina, could you finish it off?
Yes. Okay. Jingle. With the greatest alacrity, Miss Douce agreed. With grace of alacrity toward the mirrored gilt Cantrell and Cochrane's she turned herself. With grace she tapped a measure of gold whiskey from her crystal keg. Forth from the skirt of his coat, Mr. Dedalus brought pouch and pipe. Alacrity she served. He blew through the flue 2 husky fife notes. By Jove, he mused, I often wanted to see the Mourne Mountains. Must be a great tonic in the air down there. But a long threatening comes at last, they said. Yes, yes, yes. He fingered shreds of hair, her maidenhair, her mermaids into the bowl. Chips, shreds, musing, mute. None not said nothing. Yes. Gaily Miss Douce polished the tumbler, trilling, Oh, Idolores, queen of the eastern seas.
Okay. Actually, I realized that there was a place that we should have stopped at. So it might be helpful as we go through if various people just kind of mark places that they think are good transitions. I actually think the better transition would have been on the previous page, right after it said where it says, by Cantwell's office rove Greasabloom. At least in my way of thinking, that's a change. So we had this whole interaction between the 2 girls where they're going ba 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 ba, and then it shifts. I don't know what to call it, registered tone. Right at to my ear, by Cantwell's office rove Greasabloom by Seppi's virgins, bright of their oils. So it's just a minor end, a minor point.
Well, I have one comment. Every time I read the line, Miss Bronze unbloused her neck, I just love that line. That's all.
Yeah, no, it's very good. This is 2 young ladies in their prime. They are at their supreme arrogance, of confident in their beauty and their ability to manipulate their world to a certain degree. That's how I see it. Bill, you need to turn on your mic.
They know what fools men are.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and as they deal with them, as we'll find, this is an area that's confused me often. First, I think they're talking about the pharmacist, and is he the guy that they can't imagine being married to, but then it turns out it's Bloom. Now, does
Mhm.
that mean that Bloom was in the pharmacy that day, which is not unlikely? And then Bloom was in the theater where they saw him, but they don't make any comment or notice when he comes into the bar later. And I know that's getting ahead a little bit, but they don't seem to
Huh.
acknowledge his existence in any way.
I thought that they were somehow acknowledging his existence, that they had some sight of him, which brought up the subject. That's how they got onto Bloom.
Well,
Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I think there was actually a on-site, some sort of maybe they see him in the street or something. Or I could be completely delusional. I occasionally am.
Is that I'm just wondering, is that where it reads for on page 212 for my edition, line about 85 for those who've got lines. Blue who went by Mooleg's pipes, bearing in his breast the sweets of sin, by wine's antiques and memory bearing sweet sinful words, by Carol's dusky battered plate for Raoul. Are they maybe seeing him there? Donna, I might turn this over to you because my knowledge of Dublin geography isn't that good. Is this close to where the Ormond Hotel is?
except that they start talking about the pharmacy and Boyd's much earlier than that,
They
before
do. They do. That's right.
No, because of the sunburn,
right.
right?
And it goes, these things only bring out a rash, replied, seated. I asked that old fogey in Boyd's for something for my skin. And then Miss Kennedy, oh, don't remind me of him for mercy's sake. So
Oh,
they're
okay.
talking about the old fogey in Boyd's who works, I'm assuming, as the pharmacist who's going to
Right.
concoct something for her skin. And that, to me, that's what all of this afterwards relates to. This old fogey in Boyd's is the guy with the greasy nose, but then Bloom, it's sort of transposed into Bloom somehow.
Mhm.
Don't let me think of him or I'll expire, the hideous old wretch.
Mhm.
And then that night in the ancient concert rooms, here he was, with his, making noises out of his nose and stuff. Will you ever forget his goggle eye? Now, is this can't all be related to Bloom in any way? I don't think.
Right.
And your other eye, and then we get Blue, whose dark eye read Aaron Figatner's name. There's the introduction of Bloom, but they don't necessarily acknowledge seeing him at that stage. And except, well, by went his eyes. That's when he passes the statues, the Virgin in the Catholic statuary
Mhm.
shop. And then it goes back to Deuce and Kennedy.
Yeah.
And they're
Mhm.
still talking about, oh, greasy eyes. But then here, is this when they see Bloom? And is this a different conversation that they're laughing about? I assumed, I always think they're still talking about the pharmacist and Boyd's.
Going back to Dave's question, I think Boyd's is just around the corner from the Ormond.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
no difference way. And the second point is references to Bloom. We meet him early on in this episode,
Right.
where it says, by bronze, by gold, an ocean green of shadow, Bloom, old Bloom.
What
Which
line is
is,
There
I
were
don't have a line, but it's about at the end of the first page or page and a half.
Yeah, but that's
overture.
that's the overture, and that would refer to when Bloom is leaving the Ormond Hotel. He passes by.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
not, it wouldn't be at the beginning.
It's not them referring to him, in other words.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not, yeah.
I'll
Bill?
just share my assumptions or that I've created over the years, which is that once these two young beauties get to talking amongst themselves about older men who they find kind of disgusting, it kind of transfers into a category. It starts off with a person and then becomes a category of which Leopold Bloom is a member, which is an older person who likes to look at the young girls.
But,
Mhm.
but they don't treat Simon Dedalus that way.
No, but Simon,
He's
Simon
public.
is a different person.
He's an old coot who has no business talking to young women. He's married, and he's he's a lecher. He's a creep, really. But
Except I don't think he tries to. Okay, this is another assumption. I think the difference between Simon and Bloom and then the pharmacist is that Simon knows those girls are completely out of his world, and the only relationship he can have with them is a slightly teasing relationship. And I think the girls pick up on that. Whereas like Leopold, Leopold, for all of his modesty, still thinks that he might be attractive to younger women.
well, he is. Gertie finds him attractive, and she's
Yeah,
even younger than these girls are.
right. But she's from afar.
Not,
But
not
anyway,
that
yeah,
there's any kind of clear
I'm
difference for
just spinning a tale here.
Right, I understand. I'm just trying to figure it out myself in my own head.
Okay.
Bill, what do you do then with the lines that I initially read, which are before the ones you read? Blue who went by Mooleg's pipes, bearing in his breath the sweets of sins. Is he spied? I don't know about. Does your edition give you lines?
No,
Okay, so when the overture ends,
right,
within the next page of actual text,
right.
Right, that starts by bronze by gold, Miss Deuce's head by Miss Kennedy's head.
right, and so if you go down about half a page, 3/4 of a page, Blue who went by Mooleg's pipes.
Right.
Aaron, okay, so what do we do with that? Because that comes before what you had read. Is it just put in randomly, or do the women see him? And that's why I was asking Donna about location. Is it possible they could have spied him through the window?
Can they see him, Donna?
Yeah, just around the corner there.
It's around the corner. I don't think they can see
Around
it.
the corner. Surely they would have seen him pass by if they spent a lot of time looking out the window of the
Okay.
corner.
Because I was just wondering if this is put in here because from the two young ladies' perspective, they see Bloom or whomever for the first time.
That's what
Those
I've always
lines,
assumed up
are
to
an
this moment.
intervention.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Donna?
I said those lines, I have them underlined here as an intervention.
Okay.
Like they're not part of the text.
Okay.
I'm not sure who's saying them. Is there a writer?
Right.
Or is it just part of the musicality?
Well, there are a couple of places where I don't know if it's an insertion. After we have the blue who, then at line 101, after we have the impertinence with the lisp, just the word blue, just the word blue. Then half a page later, when they're talking, sweet tea, Miss Kennedy, having poured with milk. A couple lines down, nobody necessarily saying these words, but Bloom, question mark. So why? We have a man, an insertion, then we have blue who in the next line. 10 lines later, we have Bloom. 30 lines later, we have but Bloom. I mean, it's like he's being inserted in there, but maybe he's not really there.
There's a further insertion, though. There was blue who's dark eye, and the following 6 lines or so. That's after Miss Deuce chimed in deep bronze laughter, shouting, "And your other eye." And then Blue Hose dark eye read, "Aaron Figadator's Lane." Why do I always think, sorry, to gathering figs, I think, and Prosper Lore's Huguenot name. by Bassie's blessed virgins. Bloom's dark eyes went by. Blue robed, white under, come to me. God they believe she is, or goddess. Those today I could not see. That fellow spoke, student. After, with Daedalus' son, he might be Mulligan. All comely virgins, that brings those rakes of fellas in, or white.
I got a big question mark right next to that whole thing you read.
Yeah. I've got 2 question marks in that
It was the
paragraph.
Virgin Mary?
It's a statue of the Virgin Mary in the window of the store that sells Catholic statuary.
Oh, okay. Is that thing? Okay.
That sounds like very
Who's Fig Gather?
Aaron
Figure
Fitzgerald.
nurse. But it's Bassie's is the store that sells Bassie's Blessed Virgins. It's
Okay,
Bassie's
okay.
that is the statuary store.
Okay, thank you.
So he passes Figather or Figatner's, which I think is a grocer. And then right next to the grocer is Bassie's
Lassies, okay.
that sells Catholic paraphernalia, probably a lot of Mariology, a lot of Blessed, maybe the Sacred Heart, rosaries, but they also have big statues of Mary in a blue robe with white underneath. And in the neighborhood that my mother grew up in, that I spent a lot of time in when I was young, every yard had one of those. They were outdoor statues. Every single yard had a Blessed Virgin in their yard. You couldn't walk down the street without passing 30 or 40 of them. And if brought up right, you had to bow your head or make some acknowledgement. You couldn't just pass them. So it was difficult walking down the street. You had to stop every 10 yards or so.
Oh my goodness.
And then this is all in Bloom's head. God, they believe she is a goddess or goddess, except that's not what Catholics believe. We talked about this yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
The Baltimore Catechism is pretty clear that she's to be venerated, not adored or worshipped.
By the way, I found the Baltimore Catechism online if you want to read it again.
I have a copy. I still have an actual copy.
Well, I don't know why you two bother with copies. You seem to have the darn thing memorized.
They just want to make sure, Dave.
Okay.
We had nuns with rulers who made us memorize them.
Right.
Come by and swatch on your hand if you didn't get it right.
Meaning they would ask you to recite part of it, and if you stumbled,
we'd have to recite it, and then the priest would come in someday, and we'd have to recite it for him to show off what good teachers they were. It was.
Oh my God, this is like a military drill thing.
Yeah, they
we
put
marched into classes.
Organization, remember?
What's that, Donna?
I said we have to remember it was a military organization.
Yes.
Those Jesuits.
The church militant.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we digress.
We do. Around the hole.
So I'm not sure we've come much towards solving who's Bloom and where the pharmacist is, but I want to swing back to a point that Bill and Duncan were crossing swords about a bit. I'm wondering if Simon Daedalus gets cut a bit of a slack in the Ormond because he's a widower.
You think that's it?
I wonder.
It might be.
I think yeah.
It's hard to know. It might be. But one other very specific thing that makes me think that the old fogey in Boyd's is not Bloom is when they talk about his bit of beard. I mean, Bloom does not
Bloom does not have a beard.
Does not have a beard. And he's been to the baths, and I think he had a shave this morning.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a bit of a mustache, which they don't mention, but they mention his bit of beard with imagine being married to a man like that with his bit of beard. And this is who they're talking about, greasy somebody.
Married to the greasy nose.
Right. But then I think this is another insertion, this married to Bloom, to Greasy Bloom. Because they're not really, I don't think they're talking about Bloom, but I could, I suppose I could be persuaded otherwise.
Well, by Cantwell's office roved Grease Bloom by Seppi's virgins, bride of their oil.
Or maybe it's Seppi and not Bassi, but maybe it's Bassi Seppi. I don't know.
Well, it could be the Seppi's virgin could be the artist who originally made the design for that particular Mary statuary.
I don't know. I'd have to look at.
But it's pretty clear, and by Cantwell's office roamed Grease Bloom, and then it very quickly connects us to our hero, Leopold. I think it's deliberately a little bit confusing. And like I say, I think it's kind of talking about the general category of older men who look at young women in a lecherous way. And I think I still hold to the idea that Simon Dedalus gets a pass because he knows he's totally out of that game, and that he can tease the young girls and get away with it because they know he doesn't have really a lecherous thought. He doesn't think it's even remotely possible, and so they're just willing to
I
get
don't
along.
I don't see Simon that way. I think Simon's
Okay.
more than capable of flirting with everybody he can and then taking advantage of them if they agree to it. I don't think he's above that by any stretch of the imagination or thinks he's
All
out
right.
of it.
Okay.
But that's my reading of Simon.
Yeah, and you may be right, but
And you may be right.
okay.
I
All
think
right. Anyway, I really
have a
enjoy.
resolve.
I remember reading this section for the first time, and I remember feeling this is perfect. That these young girls are doing exactly what young pretty girls do. That if they have any association with a male in an age category that they think is old, it's just those guys are just fair game for all kinds of jokes like Grease Bloom and his googly eye and all this stuff. I remember, God, Joyce is really good. He really got that down perfect.
They wouldn't be have been considered to be very respectable, I don't think. I mean, barmaids in general were not, it's not like your shop girl or something. I mean, and then look at the
Yeah.
way Linehan and the other and Boylan treat them with this thigh smacking garter and that
Yeah.
they're kind of a step above streetwalkers in some people's minds of the day.
Mhm.
So I don't think they would be adverse to a guy with money, an old guy with money.
Well, that's a different story entirely.
Yeah, it's a different story entirely, but I think Simon pretends he has some money to the outer world. I mean, he treats people to drinks. I mean, he spends money he doesn't have to present an appearance of being, because at one time he was a bit more
Mm-hmm.
flush, but he's always been a spendthrift, and I don't know. I don't think we're any closer to figuring out if Bloom is who the girl's talking about or not. I think it's ambiguous.
It sure is because and maybe you've said this. Okay, so it's oh greasy eyes. Imagine being married to a man like that. She cried with a bit of a beard. Bloom doesn't have a beard. Then we come down, married to Bloom to Grisa Bloom, and then we have by Cantwell's offices roamed Grisa Bloom by separate surgeons, bright in their oils, and then he's talking about things which we associate only with Leopold Bloom.
Yeah,
like
the
writing
Raoul,
or Raoul. That exactly right. So Bill, we're, as Canadians, with one Canadian writer said, we're rushing off madly in all directions on this one.
Well, also, I think this thing about the mention of the Seppi's Virgin is a perfect contrast to the Bar Girls.
Yeah, and it reminds Bloom of the Greek goddesses in the library as well, or in the museum, I mean.
Correct, Bill, and of Molly's coming infidelity at 4 o'clock, she said, So there's I think quite a bit in that paragraph. Sorry, Orla, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you go back to what you call the overture, with a cock and a cara, and with a cara and a cock, about 10 lines down, I think that's, I think we have to wait till it crows again, because when the cock crows 3 times, I can't remember, he gets denied or he gets betrayed.
You will have betrayed me.
Yeah, Peter denies knowing.
Right.
Christ.
Not I, Lord. Not I, Lord.
I, Lord. Yeah.
Before the cock crows.
Yeah.
Was it 4 or 3?
No,
before the cock crows 3 times, you will have betrayed me.
Right.
So there's 2 there, and in the space till the next one, because it happens somewhere in this chapter, I think somebody will deny somebody else.
Okay.
Well, let's look for that.
I think we have to wait till it comes.
Yeah, I think probably just make a note that and then one of us hopefully will notice it. Well, they will actually probably talk about the cock and the cora and the cara when we get to there. Okay. Okay. Well, I think we have done as much as we can reasonably do, and maybe more on this particular section, and perhaps we should read on. And if someone notices a good a breaking place, just say it at the time. We can stop any moment. We'll have to wing it, as they say. So, David, tell us, or whoever did the last reading.
That was me, and I finished it. Oh, Dolores, Queen of the Eastern Seas.
And you're back. You got your,
Yes.
you've unmuted yourself.
I don't know what happened.
Mysteries. Okay, so do you want to read a little bit more, Katrina, or do you want to pass it on? Because if you want to pass it on, Sylvia would be the next reader.
Sylvia's gone, I see.
Oh,
so why don't you
yes.
start. You're the next reader.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I am. Sylvia's not here. So we're at Dolores, Queen of the Eastern Seas. Was Mr. Lidwell in today? In came Lenehan. Round him peered Lenehan. Mr. Bloom reached Essex Bridge. Yes, Mr. Bloom crossed bridge of Yessex. To Martha I must write. By paper, dailies. Girl there civil. Bloom, old Bloom. Blue Bloom is on the Rye. He was in at lunchtime, Miss Douce said. Linehan came forward. Was Mr. Borden looking for me? He asked. She answered. Miss Kennedy, was Mr. Boylan in while I was upstairs? She asked. Miss Voice of Kennedy answered, the second teacup poised, her gaze upon the page. No, he was not. Miss Gaze of Kennedy, heard not seen, read on. Lenehan, round the sandwich bell. Linehan round, the sandwich bell wound his round body round. Beep. Who's in the corner? No glance of Kennedy rewarding him, he yet made overtures to mind her stops, to read only the black ones, round O and crooked S. Jingle jaunty jingle. Girl gold she read and did not glance, take no notice. She took no notice while he read by rote a soulful fable for her, plappering flatly. A fox met a stork. Said the fox to the stork, will you put your bill down in my throat and pull up a bone? He droned in vain. Miss Douce turned to her tea aside. He sighed, oh me, oh my. He greeted Mr. Dedalus and got a nod. Greetings from the famous son of a famous father. Who may he be? Mr. Dedalus asked. Linehan opened his most genial arms. Who? Who may he be? He asked. Can you ask? Stephen, the youthful bard. Dry. Mr. Dedalus' famous father laid by his dry filled pipe. I see, he said. I didn't recognize him for a moment. I hear he's keeping very select company. Have you seen him lately? He had. I don't know why I want to stop, but I want to stop here and let's make sure that we have some understanding of this.
Who is asking if was Mr. Lidwell in today? It occurs just before Lanahan comes in.
Mhm.
No idea. Who is Mr. Lidwell? Do we know?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, I mean, okay, I don't have an answer to that one. I wonder about this thing. Mr. Bloom cross bridge at Yes Sex. To Martha I must write. Okay, because Miss Deuce answers whoever asked the question about Mr. Lidwell, Miss Deuce answers by saying he was in at lunchtime. That we have no idea who Mr. Lidwell is or who is asking about him. But then Lenehan, who we do know, also has a question.
Mr. Lidwell was an attorney, according to the old notes of the the Don Giffords,
Mhm.
if anybody reads that anymore.
Yeah, I look at it every once in a while.
Okay, and I'm wondering, to answer my own question, if it's Simon Dedalus who asked if Mr. Lidwell was in.
Could be, I
It
guess.
looks like that in the sequence of speakers. That's
Yeah,
what it
that's
looks
what I'm
like.
wondering. That's what I'm wondering, Lois.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I've got my bearings again here.
Jove. Okay, so actually, by Jove, he mused. Often wanted to see the Mourne Mountains. Must be a great tonic in the air down there. By long threatening, but a long threatening comes at last. They say yes, yes. So that's Simon.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, he fingered shreds of hair, her maiden hair. This doesn't make sense. If that's Simon, he's not fingering.
Is
Who
the
would?
Mermaids the popular brand of tobacco? That's what I've got as a note. So is
Ah,
the maiden hair the loose tobacco shreds?
he fingered shreds of hair, her maiden hair, her mermaids into the bowl, chips, shreds, musing mute. Nothing not said, nothing yes.
Yes, into the bowl of his pipe, right? He's
That would make sense if maidenhair is either a slang term for tobacco or a brand of tobacco. Into the bowl.
yeah, and
Chips, shreds, musing, mute.
he
Mhm.
blew through the flue two husky fife notes. Yeah, he brought forth pouch and pipe. It says that just a bit earlier. So I'm assuming it's
The five notes, he's just blown through his pipe to clean it.
right.
Blown
Right.
out his pipe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is really getting into the weeds here, but after it says, yes, he fingered shreds of hair, her maidenhair, her mermaids into the bowl, chips, shreds.
Those are his fingernails are the chips. He keeps chipping his fingernails off. And so he is lecherous enough to be putting pipe tobacco in and thinking about her maidenhair at the same time.
Okay, okay. And I was going to suggest the interpretation that chips and shreds actually show that he's smoking cheap tobacco.
No, well, any pipe tobacco is shredded. Um, doesn't necessarily mean a cheap tobacco, though it's likely a cheap tobacco.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
I have to find it now. I'm sorry.
okay. You're reading a different edition. It's right after three yeses. Yes, yes, yes. He fingered shreds of hair, her maidenhair, her mermaids into the bowl, chips, shreds, musing, mute.
Mhm.
Bill, it's
Then
about
you
three
got
lines
said,
above the italicized title, Ol I
oh,
Dolores,
Dolores.
Queen of the
Mhm.
Eastern Seas. If you see the italics, go up about 3 or 4 lines, and there it is.
Yep.
Oh, Dolores, Queen of the Eastern Sea. That's how that should be. But anyway,
Encore.
Yeah.
Mm.
More.
okay. Oh, by Jove, right. Yes, yes, yes. He fingered shreds of hair, her maidenhair, her mermaids into the bowl. That's not a brand of tobacco.
Okay. I mean, I like your
Oh,
interpretation.
why are you saying that? Why are you saying it's not a brand of tobacco?
The mermaid,
Yeah,
It says popular brand of tobacco.
that's what I've got too.
Oh, okay. So
Gifford.
that's in Gifford. Okay.
Gifford.
I'll do a Google search.
you would think it would be capitalized.
Capital, yeah.
Yeah.
Except that
Well,
Joyce
not if he wants to also play with the sexual innuendo of it all, though.
No,
Mhm.
even if you wanted to play with the sexual innuendo. But I think we notice, or Bloom notices a poster of a mermaid in his walking, and I'm assuming that Simon would have seen the same poster or have the same.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it could be. I'm willing to say, all right, it's a brand of tobacco. I don't think it matters much.
Oh, that's kind of fun though,
Mhm.
actually.
But he's musing and he's mute.
Yeah. Well, and I still can uphold my fantasy that Simon Dedalus is in a different category because even though he has these thoughts, he doesn't indicate on the external world other than being jocular with the barmaids that he has any real sexual interest in them. But I may be straining gnats.
Mhm.
Okay, excellent. So who is the next reader?
Bill,
Okay, Bill, if you
just before we start, I'm on a total other bronze by gold. the 5 ages of man. I'm looking up ages of man.
Ah,
So if the 5 ages of man, if it's the Bronze Age, in ancient Greek, the present age was the Iron Age. So if it's bronze and the Golden Age is the age of peace, and the
mm-hmm.
Bronze Age, I don't know if they're trying to get to a Golden Age or it's the ages of man. And you were talking about all these different men they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like who they're talking about, but they're talking about men of different ages. So
Yeah,
sorry, that's just throwing that in there.
yeah, no,
It was
that's an
called the
interesting
Bronze
one.
Cycle because
Mm-hmm.
if he was a classical scholar, there might be, and also if he was interested in, although the Irish version was, um, there was definitely a Bronze Age and an Iron Age, but I don't know if there was a Golden Age, but there
Well,
was
the golden age is generally considered that time in the distant past when everything was right in the world. And I believe that, and somebody else please correct me. I believe it goes the golden age, then you go into the bronze age, then you go into the iron age.
Well, except if you're talking about Vico and cycles and the Vedic cycles, the kalpas, there's a gradual progression from the darkest to the brightest period of time. Each one lasts a little longer than the other, and then the golden age is when everything is peaceful and everything is good and everybody's happy. And then there's another downfall, and you
Mm-hmm.
descend back down into the darkest kalpa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think, well, I mean, obviously, bronze by gold is referring to their hair more than anything
Yeah.
else.
Right,
But
right, right.
could have
Brunette and a blonde.
Joyce may have had the ages of man in his mind, but I don't see how that would lead us anywhere as far as this
There
goes.
was an alleged
Are we referring to
golden age
Hesiod's five
in
ages of
Ireland
man?
when
Hold on,
the Irish
we got to it.
saints reintroduced Christianity to Europe after the Dark Ages.
Hmm.
You remember Hesiod? He had the 5 ages of man as the Golden Age, Silver Age, the Iron Age, Bronze Age, Heroic Age. I don't know if that helps in any way.
And Shakespeare has his 7 stages of man, but that's a man singular, which Joyce also would have been aware of.
Yeah.
I was really thinking of it with regard to what Dave was saying when Dave was asking who are these people, because they seem to be different people, and if it was the different ages of man,
Oh,
because
the men that the girls are talking about?
yes, yes,
Okay. That is possible. I basically still hold to the idea that these are young girls that are in their prime. And there's a certain class of older men, particularly if they don't are not obviously wealthy, which are of little interest to them. But when someone like Blazes Boylan comes in, who I think is the contrasting figure in all this, as soon as Blazes shows up, Blazes is actually desired, and at least one of the women liked to flirt with him, and is apparently very disappointed when he kind of just does a little something, then he goes off. He's too busy for her at the time, and there's some disappointment.
I think these two girls are up for anything myself. And I also think that, I mean, the Ormond Hotel was a pretty high-class place in a sense. I mean, it wasn't the elite, but these are not just, this isn't Barney Kiernan's where, with um, everybody stumbling in drunk and stuff. These are respectable gentlemen, and so they're willing and able and interested in any gentleman that comes in the Ormond and gives them the time of day, I think. But
Okay. All right. I would agree with you, but I would say that, that they have their limits.
On another topic before we move on, um, there's a lot of musical there are a lot of musical references in this chapter, a lot of cadences of music in this chapter, to which I'm a complete Philistine musically. So could I just ask before we go on, Bill was good enough to sing the italicized lines. So there's one, and I know Bloom is on the Rye is another song. Have we had references to this point? We're up to about line 230, 250. Have we had references, not the overture, but just in the text itself, to other musical pieces besides those two?
We have musical writing.
Mm.
We have some references to, of course, known pieces of music, but there's musical writing. There's a lot of musical writing in here. That whole Grease of Bloom,
Grease of
blah, blah,
Bloom.
blah, blah, blah,
Right.
stuff,
Sure.
Jingle, jaunty, jingle.
Yes,
GT
thank you.
Johnny Jingle, yeah.
Yeah, right.
I can't recall an actual lyric though, or either opera or music hall up till Queen Eudalorus. And what was the other one you mentioned?
Bloom is on the Rye.
The Rye, yeah. But
That's
Bloom is on the
Rye,
right.
Bloom is on the Rye is more musical piece rather than a sung. It's more
Okay.
a tune than a song.
Okay.
But I think it's still worth noting. I mean that this whole chapter is laced with music.
Yeah, well, I'll just pick out a thing like with random, like on 235 and the Wordsworth, with grace of alacrity towards the mirror gilt Cantrell and Cochrane she turned herself. With grace she tapped a measure of gold whiskey from her crystal keg. Forth from the skirt of his coat Mr. Dedalus brought forth pouch and pipe alacrity she served. He blew through the flue two husky fife notes.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you in the Gabbler, it's about starts about line 212 on page 215. What Duncan just read.
After jingle.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. I mean, that's just one I almost picked out just as random. But there are others. Even go back to the next page. In Cantwell's office rove Greasebloom by Seppi's virgins, bright of their oils. Nanetti's father hawked those things about wheeling at doors as I. Religion pays, must see him about Keys Park. Eat first, I want, not yet, about 4, she said, time ever passing. Clock hands turning, on, where eat, the Clarence, Dolphin. On for Raoul, eat. But if I net 5 guineas with those ads, the violet silk petticoats, not yet the sweets of sin. I'm stretching it, but it's musical to me.
Now, I've got a question. Who is Raoul?
Oh, he's the hero of Sweets of Sin, I think.
Yeah, he's just the lion tamer in the. I think he's a lion tamer or an animal tamer or something in the book that Bloom has bought for Molly, Sweets of Sin.
Okay, okay.
For Raoul.
Jim, I'll find the reference. It's in Wandering Rocks. I'll just do a quick search and I'll put it in the chat, okay?
Okay, thanks, Dave.
This is for you, Duncan. Raoul, Werewolf of London.
Well,
Very good.
this is like really random stuff. when I was really young, and I'm thinking probably 8, 9, or 10, I saw a movie. And in the movie, part of the script was they had this line, Raoul, come back, Raoul. And that stuck with me for unknown reasons for the last 70 years.
You
You
sure
can
it
get
wasn't
led through
Shane?
that,
Sure it
Justin.
wasn't Shane?
I have no idea. Oh,
Shane.
you mean the name?
Yeah.
No, it was Raoul.
Shane, come back, Shane.
Yes.
Oh, oh.
We need you. Mother needs you. Shane. Oh well.
It's in the chat, Jim.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you.
All righty.
I think the sirens are trying to get us.
What's trying to get us?
The sirens. I think
Sirens.
they're
Oh,
trying
Oh,
to
the
get us.
well,
sirens.
they have definitely captivated us. We've
Well,
been circling.
I'm lashing myself to my chair for safety.
Okay.
Stuffing your
All
ears
right.
with
That's
macaroni.
right.
That's right.
All right. Well, I will take the bull by the horn, as it were, and let's go back to reading. And let's who's reading? Tell me.
I am, but
Bill?
where are we?
Okay, Bill, carry it away.
Miss Gaze of Kennedy. Heard not seen, read on. Lenehan round the sandwich bell wound his round body round. Peep, who's in the corner? No glance of Kennedy rewarding him, he yet made overtures to mind her stops, to read only the black ones. Round O and crooked S, jingle, jaunty jingle. Girl gold she read and did not glance, take no notice. She took no notice, while he read by rote a solfa fable for her, clappering flatly. A fox met a stork, said the fox to the stork. Will you put your bill down in my throat and pull up in bone? He droned in vain. Miss Douce turned to her tea aside. He sighed aside. Ah me, oh my. He greeted Mr. Dedalus and got a nod. Greetings from the famous son of a famous father. Who may he be? Mr. Dedalus asked. Lenehan opened most genial arms. Who? Who may he be? He asked. Can you ask? Stephen, the youthful bard. Dry. Mr. Dedalus, famous father, laid by his dry-filled pipe. I see, he said. I didn't recognize him for the moment. I hear he is keeping very select company. Have you seen him lately? He had. I quaffed the nectar bowl with him this very day, said Lenehan, in Mooney's Envie and in Mooney's Sur Mer. He had received the rhino for the labor of his house, of his muse. He smiled at bronze, tea-bathed lips and listening lips and eyes. The elite of Erin hung upon his lips, the ponderous pundit, Hugh McHugh, Dublin's most brilliant scribe and editor, and that minstrel boy of the wild, wet West who was known by the euphonious appellation of the O'Madden Burke. After an interval, Mr. Dedalus raised his grog, and that must have been highly diverting, said he. I see. He drank with faraway morning mountain eyes, set down his glass. He looked towards the saloon door. I see you have moved the piano. The tuner was in today, Miss Douce replied, tuning it for the smoking concert, and I never heard such an exquisite player. Is that a fact? Didn't he, Miss Kennedy? The real classical, you know. And blind, too, poor fellow. Not 20, I'm sure he was. Is that a fact? Mr. Dedalus said. He drank and strayed away. Next, please.
So sad to look at his face, Miss Douce condoled. God's curse on bitch's bastard. Tink to her pity cried a diner's bell. To the door of the dining room came bold Pat, came bothered Pat, came Pat, waiter of Ormond. Lager for dinner, lager without alacrity, she served. With patience, Lenihan waited for Boylan with impatience, for Jingle, jaunty Blazes' boy. Upholding the lid, he, who, gazed in the coffin. Coffin! At the oblique triple. Piano? Wires. He pressed the same who pressed indulgently her hand, soft pedaling a triple of keys to see the thicknesses of felt advancing, to hear the muffled hammer fall in action. 2 sheets, cream vellum paper, 1 reserve, 2 envelopes. When I was in Wisdom Healy's, Wise Bloom and Daly's, Henry Flower bought. Are you not happy in your home? Flower to console me and a pin cut slow. Means something, language of flow. Was it a daisy? Innocence, that is. Respectable girl meet after math. Thanks awfully, muchly. Wise Bloom eyed on the door a poster. A swaying mermaid smoking midnight waves. Smoke, mermaids, coolest whiff of all. Hair streaming, lovelorn. For some man, for Raoul. He eyed and saw far on Essex Bridge a gay hat riding on a jaunting car. It is, 3rd time, coincidence. Jingling on supple rubbers, it jaunted from the bridge to Ormond Quay. Follow. Risk it. Go quick. At 4. Near now. Out. 2pence, sir, the shop girl dared to say. Aha! I was forgetting. Excuse. And 4. At 4 she, winsomely she on Bloom him whom smiled. Blue smy key go, turnoon. Think you're the only pebble on the beach? Does that to all, for men. In drowsy silence, gold bent on her page. From the saloon a call came, long in dying. That was a tuning fork. The tuner had that, he forgot, that he now struck. A call again, that he now poised, that it now throbbed. You hear? It throbbed, pure, purer, softly and softlier, its buzzing prongs, longer in dying call. Pat paid for diner's pop-corked bottle, and over tumbler, tray, and pop-cork bottle, ere he went he whispered, bold and bothered, with Miss Douce. The bright stars fade. A voiceless song sang from within, singing, the morn is breaking. Next, please.
Fluidine of bird notes chirruped bright treble answer under sensitive hands. Brightly the keys, all twinkling, linked, all harpsichording, called to a voice to sing the strain of dewy morn, of youth, of love's leaf-taking, life's love's morn, the dewdrops pearl. Lenihan's lips over the counter lisped a low whistle of coy. But look this way, he said, Rose of Castile. Jingle jaunted by the curb and stopped. She rose and closed her reading, Rose of Castile. Fretted, forlorn, dreamily rose. Did she fall or was she pushed? He asked her. He answered, slighting, ask no questions and you'll hear no lies. Like lady, ladylike. Blazes Boylan's smart tan shoes creaked on the bar floor where he strode. Yes, gold from an ear by bronze from afar. Lenihan heard and knew and hailed him. See the conquering hero come. Between the car and window, warily walking went Bloom. Unconquered hero. See me he might. The seat he sat on, warm, black, wary heat pat, walked towards Richie Goulding's legal bag, lifted aloft, saluting, and I from thee. I heard you were round, said Blazes Boylan. He touched the fair Miss Kennedy a rim of his slanted straw. She smiled on him, but Sister Bronze outsmiled her, preening for him her richer hair, a bosom, and a rose. Boylan bespoke the potion. What's your cry, glass of bitter? Glass of bitter, please, and a slow gin for me. Wiring yet? Not yet. At 4 he, all said 4. Cowley's red lugs and Adam's apple in the door of the sheriff's office. Avoid. Goulding a chance. What is he doing in the Ormond? Car waiting. Wait. Hello, where off to? Something to eat? I too was just in here. What? Ormond? Best value in Dublin. Is that so? Dining room. Sit tight there. Seen, not be seen. I think I'd join you. Come on. Richie led on. Bloom followed bag. Dinner fit for a prince. Next.
Miss Douce reached high to take a flagon, stretching her satin arm, her bust that all but burst so high. Oh, oh, jerked Lenihan, gasping at each stretch. Oh. But easily she seized her prey and let it low in triumph. Why don't you grow? Asked Blazes Boylan. She bronze, dealing from her oblique jar thick, syrupy liquor for his lips, looked as it flowed, flower in his coat, who gave him, and syruped with her voice. Fine goods in small parcels. That is to say, she. Neatly, she poured slow, syrupy, slow. Here's fortune, Blazes said. He pitched a broad coin down. Coin rang. Hold on, said Lenihan, till I. Fortune, he wished, lifting his bubbled ale. Scepter will win in a canter, he said. I plunged a bit, said Boylan, winking and drinking. Not on my own, fancy of a friend of mine. Lenihan still drank and grinned at his tilted ale, and at Miss Douce's lips that all but hummed, not shut, the ocean song her lips had trilled. E Dolores, the eastern seas. Clock word. Miss Kennedy passed their way. Flower, wonder who gave. Bearing away tea tray. Clock clacked. Miss Douce took Boylan's coin, struck boldly the cash register. It clanged. Clock clacked. Fair one of Egypt teased and sorted in the till and hummed and handed coins in change. Look to the west, a clack for me. What time is that? Asks Blazes Boylan. 4 o'clock. Lenihan's small eyes of hunger on her humming. Bust a humming. Tugged Blazes Boylan's elbow sleeve. Let's hear the time, he said. Next.
The bag of goulding collis ward led bloom by rye bloom flower tables. Aimless he chose with agitated aim, bald Pat attending a table near the door. Been here at 4, has he forgotten? Perhaps a trick, not come. Wet appetite, I couldn't do. Wait, Pat, waiter, waited. Sparkling blonde azure-eyed blazers, sky blue bow-wed eyes. Go on, pressed Lenihan. There's no one, he never heard. To Flora's lips did high. High, a high note, pealed in the treble clear. Bronze Douce, communing with her rose that sank and rose, sought Blazes Boylan's flower and eyes. Please, please, he pleaded over returning phrase of avowal. I could not leave thee. After which Miss Douce promised coyly. No, now, urged Lennon. Solid a plush. Oh, do, there's no one. She looked. Quick, Miss Ken, out of earshot. Sudden bent. 2 kindling faces watched her bend. Quavering the cord strayed from the air, found it again. Lost cord and lost. Found it, faltering. Go on, do, sonny. Bending, she nipped the peak of skirt above her knee. Delayed, taunted them still. Bending, suspending, with wilful eyes, Sonny, smack. She let free sudden in rebound her nip elastic garter, smack warm against her smackable woman's warm hose tie. Le crush, cried gleeful Lenihan, trained by owner, no sawdust there. She smiled, smirked, supercilious, wept and meant, but lightward gliding, mild, she smiled on Boylan. You're the essence of vulgarity, she in gliding said. Boylan eyed, tossed to fat lips his chalice, drank off his tiny chalice, sucking the last fat violet syrupy drops. His spellbound eyes went after her gliding head as it went down the bar by mirrors, gilded arc for ginger ale, hock and claret glasses shimmering, a spiky shell, where it concerted mirrored bronze with sunnier bronze. Yes, bronze from a nearby. Sweetheart, goodbye. I'm off, said Boylan with impatience. He slid his chalice brisk away, grasped his change. Wait, a shake, begged Lenihan, drinking quickly. I wanted to tell you, Tom Rochford. Come on to blazes, said Blazes, Boylan going. Lenihan gulped to go. Got the horn or what? He said. Wait, I'm coming. He followed the hasty, creaking shoes, but stood by nimbly by the threshold, saluting forms, a bulky with a slender. How do you do, Mr. Dollard? Eh? How do? How do? Ben Dollard's vague bass answered, turning an instant from Father Cowley's woe. He won't give you any trouble, Bob. Alf Bergen will speak the Longfellow. We'll put a barley straw in what Judas Iscariot's ear this time. Sighing, Mr. Dedalus came through the salon, a finger soothing an eyelid. Next, please.
I'm wondering here if we've covered a great deal and maybe want to do some discussing.
We have covered a great deal. Yeah, and I will have to say that I kind of intentionally let it go to remind ourselves that there is also, in addition to the details and all the topics, there's a flow in the language,
Yes.
and to
Yes.
give more people a chance to read.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
this is the interesting task we have for ourselves, which is what is the balance between deep dives and yeah, and it'll always be recalibrating all the time.
hmm
So okay, but you had a question somewhere or some statement you wanted to make, Dave?
Well, if we go way back to where we started, just about half a page below where Bill's saying to us, so it's the italicized part. If you don't have numbers, you have numbers. I'm looking at about 243 on page 215. No glance of Kennedy. Okay, this is Lanahan. He's trying to get some kind of response
Yeah,
out of
this
Kennedy.
is the very bottom of page 235 in the Wordsworth edition.
And so he's trying to get a response out of Kennedy. No glance of Kennedy rewarding him. He yet made overtures to mind her stops, to read only the black ones, round zero, crooked S. Jingle jaunty jingle. Old girl she read and did not glance, took no notice, she took no notice. Well, she read by rote a sofa fable for her. Well, he read by rote a sofa fable for her, blabbering flatly. Okay. So this business of minding her stops, those are punctuation marks. Read only the black ones, round zero are periods, and crooked S question mark. Can somebody tell me where that's coming from?
Linehan's a clown.
Correct.
He's doing everything he possibly can to get her attention.
I see. Okay, so he's kind of going weird on her here, hoping that the more
Just hoping that he actually gets rewarded later on from all of his clownery.
does.
Although at the same time she's rewarding him, she's very clearly letting him know that he's a real creep.
Right. Okay. So
I mean, that's my perhaps surface interpretation of this, but I mean,
right. So these are just antics to kind of get her attention.
yeah, he's no Blazes Boylan.
Oh, definitely not. No. Okay. All right. And he ends up getting Lenahan ends up getting a drink. Now, I'm assuming that's from Boylan and not from Simon Dedalus, correct?
I think so.
Because he wants the drink at the top of. If you read a few lines later, it says dry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, is this? Mhm.
except that could also refer to his humor.
Rose of
Mhm.
Castile.
Because he's just whom he says, "Can you ask Stephen, the youthful bard?" Dry.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mr. Dedalus laid by his dry filled pipe. So it could be that that's Simon Dedalus noticing he's been blowing through his pipe to get the spittle out. And now it could be, well, he notices it's dry, so that's in his mind, in Simon's mind, dry. I don't think it's the narrator who then says Mr. Dedalus, famous father, laid by his dry, filled pipe.
Mm-hmm. It's not Lenahan is the guy who's basically his main occupation in life is caging drinks from other people,
I
right?
think so. Yes.
And I think one of his techniques for doing that is, well, two of his techniques are flattery and clowning.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, he tries to ingratiate himself with everyone by making his silly jokes. He did that in the newspaper office, and he got to tag along and have some drinks with
Yeah.
the with
Yeah,
everybody.
this is his habit, and then he seems to hang out with Boylan quite a bit, which is kind of like the little dog running around with the big dog.
Right.
I actually have this image of Boylan is kind of this very sleek big dog sort of thing, and then Linehan is some sort of little tiny dog that's kind of hopping around Boylan. Um, it's just something that came to me. One
The
thing that
first
I
thing,
really was really coming across, particularly on page 237 in the thing where it says, a swaying mermaid smoking mid nice waves, smoke mermaids. There's always mermaid, 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 which of course is hitting us on the head. Although it's taken me a while to really, I don't know, sometimes I'm really dense. Of course, the sirens are mermaids.
of course they are. So that's the connection, and the connection's made by Simon when he's filling his pipe. But there were also mermaid cigarettes, and that's the poster that he's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which were pretty cheap cigarettes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I don't know. And it's possible that Simon Dedalus is so down and out that he takes mermaid cigarettes and opens them and fills his pipe with that cigarette tobacco.
When I was a smoker, I've done
Yeah,
similar type things.
yeah, it's
When I
not,
was a smoker and shall we say the bank account was not overflowing?
yeah. To go back to Dave's question about the round O's and the crooked S's, I think that's in Miss Kennedy's head that
Okay.
that's happening.
Right.
Because I had before that, Miss Gaze of Kennedy heard, not seen, read on. So
Mhm.
she's reading behind the counter, sitting on a crate, drinking her tea, having a break and reading and trying to ignore Lenahan.
Yes.
And then,
Okay.
and
I thought that was also a musical reference, that the O is the whole note and that the crooked S is a staff.
Ooh. Okay. Thank you.
yeah, it could be.
Yes.
And the
But
black ones, you play either the black keys or the white keys.
right, but she says, but no glance of Kennedy rewarding him, he yet made overtures.
Mhm.
And then she thinks to mind her stops. She's thinking to herself as she's reading, just pay attention to the punctuation. Well,
But I see that as
so
musical
she
also.
took no notice of Lenahan, Well, she read by rote. No, that's ahead of that. To read only the black ones, round O and crooked S. So those periods and question marks.
Mhm.
She's not reading music, I don't think. She's reading probably a newspaper, because I think she shows the newspaper to somebody later on who asks about something. Maybe it's Simon later. But she's been
Mm-hmm.
she's
I
reading.
just saw it as more musical references. We use the word overture, and
Yeah.
the two minor stops like an organ stop, and then the black ones as opposed to the ebony and ivories. I just thought it was more musical stuff being thrown in there.
Well, it's
Yeah,
double.
I think
It's mhm.
it's double. Yeah, double meanings to
Yeah.
everything in Joyce.
Yeah.
So I
You
think
know, it's musical overtures and it's Lenahan's overtures.
Mhm.
yeah. But I think it's Miss Kennedy thinking that to read only the black ones, round O and crooked S. And then Girl Gold she read and did not glance, take no notice. She took no notice. He read by rote, um, the fox and the stork, He droned in vain.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
But I mean, he is the one. I mean, it is Miss Kennedy who ultimately is it Miss Kennedy who ultimately pops her garter for him?
I think so. Yes, yes.
So this may be kind of a a kind of a sadomasochistic routine between Miss Kennedy and Lenahan, where he has to get totally, he really has to be pleading and but you don't think so? Bill's shaking his head.
I think she pops her garter for Boylan, who
Yeah.
is not here yet.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Lenahan's trying to get her attention and she makes no notice of him. But when Boylan comes in and he's going to see her pop her garter, then she's interested.
Right, right. But Lenahan is the one who's begging her to do it, right?
Encouraging her. Yeah, but
Encouraging her. He's begging her.
well, yeah, but with Boylan's attention, with Boylan's
Yeah. So she's got a double motive. She can reward Lenahan at the same time that she is flirting with Boylan. Yeah, on page 240, um, it's a whole thing here. Please, please. He pleaded over, returning phrases of avowal. I could not leave the afterwards, Miss Douche. That's actually
Right.
it's
Yeah.
Miss Douche.
Yeah. Bronze deuce.
right. Yeah,
Okay.
and Miss Kennedy is still sitting behind the bar reading.
Right. And
But
she's out of earshot. Quick.
yeah, and
She wrote
Mina
quick, Miss
Deuce
Ken
is
out of
behind.
earshot.
Right.
Yeah,
Sudden.
Miss Ken was out of
Yeah,
earshot.
that's right.
Okay, good. I'm glad I asked, even though I'm a little embarrassed that I was so wrong.
Yeah, it
It's
says
easy
here
to
on page 239, go on, press Lenehan. There's no one. He never heard. So it would seem like there's just the two of them in some corner of the bar, I think.
Yeah, they're over at the bar with Miss Deuce waiting on them, but Miss
Mhm.
Kennedy's still on her tea break and is not paying any attention to Lenahan or anyone. She's not interested in Lenahan or Boylan for that matter.
Okay.
Yes, and it says down here in terms of doing it for Boylan afterwards, but lightward gliding, mild. She smiled on Boylan.
Mhm.
He is the chosen one.
Yeah, he's the fair-haired boy.
Mhm.
Lenahan's a clown.
So now I'm confused. Is Boylan listening to Sonny Leclerc as well, or is he somewhere else?
Oh yeah, no, he's definitely interested in the snap of the garter and
Yeah. On that page 240, I think you have Wordsworth, Jim, in the middle of the page. Boylan eyed. So she's doing it, but Boylan's definitely paying attention.
Okay.
Yeah, Boylan eyed, tossed to fat lips his chalice, drank off his tiny chalice, sucking the last fat violet syrupy drops. His spellbound eyes went after her gliding head as it went down the bar by mirrors.
Yeah, I mean, right after it, La Cloche cried gleeful Lenehan, trained by owner, note sawdust there. She smiled, smirked, supercilious, wept, aren't men. But lightward, gliding, mild, she smiled on Boylan.
Mm-hmm.
So, she's addressing Boylan. You're the essence of vulgarity, she in gliding said. And then it's
You,
Boylan eyed. She might have said that to Lenehan. You're the essence.
yeah, I think she said that to Linehan.
Was looking at Boylan when she said it.
Mm-hmm.
Or could she have been teasing Boylan?
Oh, sure.
The only reason I ask, Bill, is because this kind of is what Molly gets at in her monologue in the Penelope chapter. That he's a very satisfying guy, but there's a touch of the vulgar about him that she doesn't care for.
Yeah, there's a resonance there, I think. Yeah. And Boylan is kind of vulgar. His he's very showy. His tastes are
Yeah.
pretty vulgar. I mean, they're not. It's all for show.
Right.
He's a pantomime boy more than a fine artist, which I think is really, the big image is the rose between his teeth.
Which is a pretty vulgar gesture, I think. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
too,
well, it's actually, I mean, it's more in, I believe in Spain that that's kind of a woman's gesture to put a rose between their teeth while they're dancing.
yeah.
So, and then, shortly after that little scene, she's disappointed because Boylan leaves.
Yeah, Miss Deuce is the one that's interested in Boylan, I think, more. Well, they both are, but she's really smitten. Miss Kennedy, not so much, but a bit.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. Of course, I don't have no idea what she's reading, but Miss Kennedy on her break, she isolates herself and she's reading a book and she's drinking tea.
Yeah.
I wonder, is she reading Sweets of Sin?
I think we find out later she's just reading a newspaper, but it, might be Sweets of Sin.
Alrighty, we're getting close to our time. Do we want to read just a little bit more before we wrap up today?
Do we want to see Boylan take his leave? I'm reading next. Do we want to see Boylan take his leave?
Yeah, let's see Boylan take his leave.
All right. Okay, so I'm not sure where. Okay, I'll just pick it up here. I may be repeating.
That's okay.
On the blazes, said Blazes Boylan going. Lenehan gulped to go. Got the horn or what? He said. Wait, I'm coming. He followed the hasty creaking shoes, but stood by nimbly by the threshold, saluting forms, a bulky with a slender. How do you do, Mr. Dollard? Eh? How do? How do? Ben Dollard's vague bass answered, turning an instant from Father Cowley's woe. He won't give you any trouble, Bob. Elfbergen will speak to the long fellow. We'll put a barley straw in that Judas Iscariot's ear this time. Sighing, Mr. Dedalus came through the saloon, a finger soothing an eyelid. Ho ho, we will, Ben Dollard yodeled jollily. Come on, Simon, give us a ditty. We heard the piano. Bald Pat, bothered waiter, waited for drink orders. Power for Richie and Bloom? Let me see. Not make him walk twice. His corns. 4 now. How warm this black is. Coarse nerves a bit. Refracts, is it heat? Let me see. Cider. Yes, bottle of cider. What's that? Mr. Dedalus said. I was only vamping, man. Come on, Ben Dollard called. Begone, dull and care. Come on, come, Bob. He ambled, Dollar, bulky, slops before them. Hold that fellow with the, hold him now, into the saloon. He plumped him Dollard on the stool. His gouty paws plumped chords, plumped, stopped, abrupt. Old Pat in the doorway met tealess gold returning. Bothered, he wanted power and cider. Bronze by the window watched, bronze from afar. Jingle a tingle jaunted. Bloom heard a jing, a little sound. He's off. Light sob of breath, Bloom sighed on the silent blue-hued flowers. Jingling. He's gone. Jingle. Here. Love and war. Ben, Mr. Dedalus said, God be with the old tunes. I'll just read one more because it talks about Mrs. Deuce's.
Okay, all right.
Miss Deuce's brave eyes, unregarded, turned from the cross blind, smitten by sunlight. Gone. Pensive. Who knows? Smitten. Smiting light. She lowered the drop blind with the sliding cord. She drew down, pensive. Why did he go so quick when I, about her bronze, over the bar where bald stood by Sister Gold, in exquisite contrast, contrast in exquisite, non-exquisite, slow, cool, dim, sea green, sliding depth of shadow. Oh, the Nil.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Eau de Nil, is that water of?
It's cologne or a toilet water.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think that might be just a sense of the aroma as she passes by, but
I think it's also a color.
could be.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the translation.
Sort of a greenish, a pale greenish color.
Nile water.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Mhm.
I can Google it.
Okay, you're faster at that than I am.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but we actually have Bloom and Blazes Boylan's in the same place at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Right.
Bloom's sitting in the restaurant area and Boylan's at the bar.
And it's 4:00. Boylan's gonna be late.
He is late.
Fashionably late.
Oh,
Keep him waiting.
Oh, jeez.
Let him know who's in charge.
Certain amount of arrogance there, right? Yeah. By the way, Lois, you nailed it. It's a greenish color. I just Googled it.
It's a 10-minute walk from there to Eccles Street.
Ah, okay.
So he won't be that late.
All right.
Gifford, who I very rarely look at, says that in this case, a cloth of a pale greenish blue color. So if that's something that Miss Deuce is wearing, in addition to her black blouse, is she wearing an eau de Nil skirt or a scarf, or if it's just something that she walks past, I don't know. But Gifford seems to think it's a cloth of that color.
Now, Bill, I live about 3,000 kilometers away from you, but even out here, I felt the earth shake to see you make a reference to Gifford.
Ah,
I didn't think I'd see it in my lifetime.
no, it's rare. Don't expect to ever see it again. It's hard. I'm still going over that whole Bloom thing. That's the only reason I dug it out, is to see exactly where Bloom's walking down, is it Wellington Quay to Essex Street or Grattan Street, and then he turns down Grattan Street to go to the Ormond. He's walking east on Wellington when he passes all of those places. So the women in the bar could not possibly have seen him walking past
Okay.
the diamond merchant and the jeweler and the statue places.
You know, Bill, we were both on this Bloom business. I would just have to put it this way. We were both raised Catholic, so we'll have to resort to our refuge of it's a mystery.
It's a mystery. Yeah.
That's what happened whenever you'd ask a question in religion class and you couldn't get an answer. It's a mystery.
It's a mystery.
I can relate.
You
Yes.
know, one of my favorite sayings for many decades was, "Whatever's not mystery is guesswork." So this is a really, probably really stretching the point, but because this last thing that includes you, Denil, um, you know, Blazes has left, Miss Douche is a little crestfallen, and so in my mind, it's kind of like water of oblivion or water of nihilism, as opposed to not just water of the Nile. She's going to
But,
be a little down for a while
well,
until
maybe she's a queen of denial.
clean of the Nile.
Queen
Okay.
of denial.
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
And so you contrast. I mean, sorry, not. I guess in this case it'd be compare because just before we see Miss Deuce's reaction, we see Bloom. Bloom knows where Boylan's going, and it says light sob of breath. Bloom. I find that very fine. He is also sorry to see Blazes Boylan go, but for an entirely different reason.
Yeah.
That's a tough line.
Yep. But the a little bit of difference between the two is Bloom knows
Right.
that Boylan is going
Yep.
and why he's going. And the Miss Deuce is just disappointed that he didn't hang around longer and pay attention to her. And kind of spurned her at the last little bit after she had popped her garter to get his attention.
Right, and she's wondering if that's it's a bit of a veiled reference, but I think she's wondering if that's what precipitated his departure.
That's the way the human mind tends to work many times, is we are all convinced that other people's behavior has something to do with us when actually rarely does. But we still, since we're the center of our own story, we just assume that all these things happen because of something we said or did or didn't do or didn't say. So
Yeah, our own egocentrism.
a little bit of it in the world, I noticed.
So Simon is in at the piano and he's playing, and I think that's where the song Goodbye, Sweetheart, Goodbye comes in. But I think Miss Deuce is also humming to the song. the bright stars fade. A voiceless song sang from within, singing.
Oh, okay.
So I think that I think she's humming, but I could be wrong. But then the duodene of bird notes chirruped bright treble, a new bright treble answer under sensitive hands. That's Simon playing. Brightly the keys, all twinkling, linked, all harpsichording, called to a voice to sing, the strain of dewy morn, of youth, of love's leave-taking, life's love's morn. The dewdrops pearl. That's so all of these lyrics are from Goodbye, Sweetheart, Goodbye.
Hmm. Okay, and what is this thing? Okay, down here, it's bronze by the window. Watch bronze from afar. Jingle a tinkle jaunted. Bloom heard a jing, a little sound. He's off.
Yeah, from where Bloom's sitting, couldn't hear the jaunting car making too much noise, but he heard a jing. He heard a little bit of it as he left.
Hmm. All righty. Any last moment comments or questions?
I think there's a rivalry between the two sirens for Boylan's attention. Boylan pays more attention to Miss Kennedy, who's far away, than he does to Miss Douce, who's right there. And,
Mm-hmm.
and she acknowledges him, but not in any forward way, whereas
Right.
Miss Douce is extremely forward, which leads me to believe that Boylan and Miss Kennedy might have something going on that
Uh-huh.
they don't want the world to know about.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to bid everyone adieu and close out this session.
Shakespeare tomorrow, right?
Oh,
Yep.
Hmm?
of course.
Tomorrow, correct?
Tomorrow for Hamlet. Yes, on we go.
Yes,
Yeah, you bet. All
great.
right.
Hey,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Bye,
Thanks, folks.
everybody.
And,
Bye.
okay.
Bye.